when I think about my career, the things that I've enjoyed the most have always been solving hard problems with technology.
What is going on, L&M family? Back again. And this time, if you want to meet super awesome people, like even accidentally, that are way out of your league, start a podcast. Because my guest today is exactly that caliber of individual who we've had a little bit of conversation, and it's clear that he's a caring individual, totally different, comes from a different background, different country even. I don't know, I may be assuming there, but he's got a sweet spot for the trade contractors, which of course, you know me, I'm super biased about subcontractors out there. And he's come up with, maybe I should say it this way, he's helping subcontractors, specialty contractors double the number of bids that they can submit, reduce errors, and increase profitability. His name is Mr. Shane Patterson. He is the founder and CEO of Jenga. I keep saying Jenga AI,
Jenga, Jesse.
It's just Jenga. All right,
Yeah.
folks, y'all heard it straight from the boss. He said it's just Jenga, which is estimating and pricing suite built for the commercial specialty contractors and helps them, again, double the bids, get more work out there, does a lot of fancy stuff, which we're going to ask about because y'all already know I don't know. I'm like not that smart in the tech space, but I do understand valuing people and making lives better for subcontractors. So I'm super excited to talk with Mr. Shane. But before that, if you're new here, this is the Learnings and Missteps podcast, where you get to meet amazing human beings just like you that are sharing their gifts and talents to leave this world better than they found it. I'm Jesse, your selfish servant, and we're about to get to know Mr. Shane Patterson. Mr. Shane, how are you, sir?
I am fantastic, Jesse. How are you?
If you can't tell, I got a little bit of energy. I made some coffee this morning, went for a swim, and then I got to working and then realized I didn't finish my coffee. And so I started drinking my coffee again about 30 minutes ago. So I'm like bouncing all over the place.
It's very dangerous to drink a coffee this late in the day, Jesse.
I agree. And you're in Florida right now. So it's like 6:45 your time over there.
Yep.
All right. So I got a super simple softball question for you, Shane.
Sure.
How simple is construction?
Do you know what? I wish you had asked me that question 6 years ago when I first got into construction, because as far as I knew, there were general contractors, there were architects, and that was about it. 6 years later, after immersing myself in construction, I feel like I know even less now than I did then. It's very interesting because for the uninitiated, it feels like a business that shouldn't be that hard. But the more you get to know it, the more you realize, wow, if I'm honest, Jesse, I'm not aware of, well, let me tell you a little bit about my background. I'm sorry, I'm giving you a good answer, but I am a software engineer. I've been writing software for longer than I care to admit. Even though I'm so young, I'm a very old man. I started out in finance. I worked for the British Treasury. I wrote the software that they use to auction out British Treasury bonds. Then I worked for an investment bank. I did a tech startup with my brother in 2013. It was a cloud-based financial analysis when cloud was still sexy, or at the tech. Cloud's not that sexy now. And then when we sold that company, I was looking for something challenging to get into, something interesting. A friend of mine had a stone and tile subcontracting business based out of Manhattan. And he told me there was a big opportunity around preparing takeoffs and proposals. And my first question was, what's a takeoff? I literally had no idea. I walked into his office. He showed me how his company, which at the time was probably around 10 million in revenue, so not tiny, but not huge. And when he showed me what they did, I thought, oh my God, this guy has no idea what he's doing. It can't be like this. So did a bit of research and discovered that, yes, when you're bidding construction projects, you genuinely do trace the outlines of the walls so that you can figure out the material quantities. Like there genuine is a human who is clicking on all of the boundaries to start
Yeah.
preparing a takeoff. And at the time, I'm not sure if you remember those AI videos with the robotic arms picking up the squishy balls. Did you ever see that?
Oh, yeah.
So this was 2018.
Man, not too long ago. Yeah.
I know. And I thought, you know what? If a robotic arm can pick up a squishy ball, I can write a piece of software that's going to automate this takeoff problem. And I can build a company that has a material impact on this particular problem space. And here I am, 6 years later, still very angry with my friend for getting me involved in this very difficult business. But the short answer is I have developed a love for construction companies because the people are incredible, Jesse, like just
Mm.
such genuine, hardworking, honest people. And
Yeah.
the work itself is tough. Not just the actual building work, that's obviously difficult because it's manual, like you're pushing your body, but the information technology side of construction is very difficult because it's an interception point between standards where you think that there's a specific way to communicate something very complex, and then just the human aspect, creativity. So it's
Yeah.
super, super interesting. So how much do I know about construction? What do I think of it? I think it's hard. I think it's a tough business, very exciting, and I'm excited to learn more about it. It's probably going to take a long time because it's tough.
Yeah. No, 100%. I remember being in the field as an installer, right? Plumbing apprentice, journeyman, and I had my, we'll say, opinions about how we did business, right? The type of clients we got, that
Mm,
we worked for, the type of projects that we were on, where it was just like, it was not, it was horrible. Like they treated us like garbage.
right.
It was a horrible environment. I'm like, why are we picking people like this? Thinking, well, you just get better clients. But it's not that easy. So over the years, it's like you nailed it. There's so many levels of complexity. I mean, a simple one, which seems simple, right? Like you've got the front end of the business where you're out there doing business development, doing an estimate, doing a material takeoff so you can produce an estimate. And then you have the execution installation of it. And the communication between that internally fails in majority of places.
Right.
That's kind of why I have a job. But you decided I could write some code for this. And so I'm curious about the software engineer thing for two reasons, Mr. Shea, because you and I've had some conversations, and I feel like you and I could just fucking hang out and tell
Absolutely.
stories and get on forever, which I've talked with, which is rare, meaning other folks that I know that are like programmers that have that kind of brain power. I can't have a conversation with them. And so there's that element. And then, like you said, the people in our industry, they're different. It's a notably different personality, type of communication, style of communication.
Mm.
And so for you specifically, getting into software engineering code, I'm assuming that's coding. Was it that got you there? What was interesting about it that pulled your attention for you to dedicate so much of your time to it?
When I think about my career, the things that I've enjoyed the most have always been solving hard problems with technology. I've
Okay.
always been drawn to those sorts of problems. And when you're at the start of your career, you spend a lot of time, and it's probably the same in plumbing. When you're at the beginning, you're doing all of the actual installation and you're doing all the stuff that the more senior guy doesn't want to do, but you also need to learn. And then as you become more senior, you discover that, wow, the easy part was actually writing the code. The hard part is actually understanding what the problem is that you're trying to solve.
Yes.
So I spent a lot of my career writing code, managing teams, but understanding when someone says, when people describe a technology solution to you, they don't generally, people are interesting, Jesse, because they can't always tell you what they do want, but they immediately know what they don't want.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And they know that after you have spent, let's say, a month putting something together, and then immediately they know, no. When
Mhm.
people describe what they want to you, they generally they try to simplify it and they'll describe it to you in the terms that they understand. Like, make the Excel spreadsheet do this one thing, or put a button here that does that. And the interesting part is really unpacking what do they, when they say, I want you to put this piece of information into this cell in this spreadsheet, what do they actually mean? Why are they asking it in those terms? And that's what I spend my time doing. And essentially, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase asking, there's a book called The Whys, or there's a technique called The Whys, which
Yep.
is basically just ask why. And I say the same things to my teams. Like when someone says to you, I need you to do this, you ask the question why. You can sound like a 3-year-old,
Yes.
experience the what it's like when you speak to a 3-year-old who continuously asks you why. At some point you realize, wow, I know nothing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because
Oh, totally.
because asking those questions, asking the whys, really gets down to the root of the problem, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The five whys, that's the way I
Right, whys,
understand them,
that's right, yes.
is a part of the lean construction problem solving framework because it helps us get to the root cause. And I love the way you said it, right? Like, we're not, I'll say it, here's a confession from me. I suck at articulating what I want. But man, I could tell you what I don't want quick, right? Like, that's
Right,
easy.
yeah,
And so, like, the five whys helps us get layer after layer to really understand the root of the thing.
yep,
Because if we just take action on the presenting problem, we're not going to solve the underlying issue. And we got to dig to get to the underlying issue. So
right.
you seem to have an appreciation, or maybe not an appreciation, but patience to listen to people to really understand their problem. Where does that come from? Is that like an innate thing that came up through your family? Or is it really a function of, well, that's the best way to solve problems and deliver a solution that's going to knock their socks off? We're going to do the L&M family member shout out. And this one goes to Mr. Steve Wood. He sent me this message. He says, you have a way of making things concise and you hit the nail squarely on the head. I'm truly glad that the algorithm led me to you. And I connected with him on the Instagram. I'm starting to get some traction on the Instagram. So, Mr. Wood, I appreciate you, man, taking the time to repost and engage with the content. I appreciate most of all that you're signaling back to me that the content is landing with you and bringing you some kind of value. And to the rest of you L&M family members out there, you already know I love attention. So if you leave a review, drop some stars, leave me a comment, even a stinky comment, I can handle it. That gives me an opportunity to shout you out in a future episode.
It's something that I had to learn. Sometimes I tell my wife, I miss my 20s because I knew everything then.
Yes.
When I was younger, I had a bad habit of interrupting people and thinking, I know what you're going to say. You don't have to finish. Let me tell you. And I'm a big fan of learning, standing on the shoulders of giants. And I think a common theme from people that are accomplished is they will listen to what other people say. So having seen that from other people, I want to emulate that. I want to stand on the shoulders of giants. So it's a learned behavior. And I'm very happy that I've spent the time to learn it because it's changed a lot of things about my life.
Oh, well, I don't know about your life, but I know it sure changed a lot in my life. Is I remember a friend of mine, coworker friend. This is way back when I was like in my 20s, where I was foreman. And he's like, Jesse, you ask a lot of questions. I'm like, yeah, because I really want to know. He's like, no. He's like, but you answer your own questions. You ask questions like you care about what we're going to say. And really, you're just setting yourself up to go on one of your rants like you always do. I'm like, no, I don't.
He said that to you? Wow.
I went home to my ex-wife now, and I said, "Can you believe what so and so said?" And she just kind of looked at me. She's like,
Yep.
"Oh," I'm like, "Oh, I got a problem." I asked my team what was the number one thing I needed to work on, and like we all came up with this list. We're on a project here in San Antonio, and the deal was we were all going to share our list for each other and help each other, like call each other out on it actively so we can make it better faster. The three guys all had the same complaint. They all said that I didn't listen. And I believed for real that I was the best damn listener in the company.
Wow.
And so I, again, right here, now I'm in my mid 30s when this happens. Anyhow, what they pointed out, what we figured out was when they brought me a problem that I had been experienced before, I would cut them off and tell them what to do. The rest of the time I was listening, I was a little more patient. But if it was a thing like, hey, we got this issue with the supplier, oh, okay. And I'm on the phone calling them. And they're like, do you let me finish? Like, it's all right. I know what needs to happen. Don't worry about it. Oh, you should do this. And so it took a lot of practice for me to break that habit. And I actually timed myself because I told the guys, for real, I said, guys, I said, I don't want to defend myself. You are right. But I need you to signal to me when I'm doing it wrong. And that's how we discovered it was in that specific circumstance. When it was a problem that I was very familiar with, I would just give them the answer. And so they would give me a signal. One guy would pull his ear, the other guy would kind of do this. And so I'm like, oh, okay, shut your mouth, Jess. And so in order for me to keep my mouth shut, I had to focus on something. So I would focus on I would time it.
Wow.
The longest it ever took for me to let them finish talking was 2 minutes. It was almost always less than 60 seconds for me to keep my mouth quiet and let them finish telling me the thing. And I thought I was being efficient, except that, sure, I was being efficient in terms of time, but in terms of social capital and relationship, entirely wasteful because I was offending them or disrespecting them every time I did that. So I say that to people, if you're in that situation, time yourself, man. It's really not that much more time to just let people finish talking.
So I don't know if you know a guy, Jordan Peterson. I know that some of his politics is a little controversial, but I've read his book. But also, I have tremendous respect for the way that he handles discussions, because what he always does is, no matter what people are saying to him, he always listens. And I think 9 times out of 10, you do know what people are going to say, and you probably could cut them off. But 1 out of 10% of the time, people are going to surprise you. And I also think that you surprise yourself when you actually listen to people, because sometimes your response is, in some cases, the opposite of what you thought you were going to say at the start of the conversation. And to bring it back to construction, honestly, we were talking about big mistakes. And when I started the company, my big mistake was trying to deliver more than anyone had ever done before, not understanding how risky doing what I was doing was going to be. So
Oh,
let me unpack that for you. So
yeah, please. I'm curious.
so my friend brought me into his office, and it was 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and he had a bottle of whiskey on his desk, which he opened up, and we had a sip of whiskey, which was shocking for me. Honestly, I was like, wow, okay. And then he showed me what it looks like for him to go through the bid process. And of course, it's your oxygen in a construction.
Yeah.
Everything comes through almost there. I mean, it depends on your business, but in
Right.
most cases, it comes through a bid process. And at the end of the session with him, I thought, you know what? Wouldn't it be cool if Eunice could be his name? My friend's called Eunice. If Eunice is sitting in the bar and Jenga delivers his proposal for him. So
Ooh.
I said to you, what do you think of that? He was like, I would love that. Absolutely, grow my business. So if you think about what's involved in doing that, so basically you've got to do the takeoff accurately. And some trades are more risky than others. Some scopes are more risky than others. He was in stone and tile. I knew nothing. Honestly, before I started, I didn't even know what a subcontractor was. He had to explain to me. I didn't even understand the function of a general contractor, if I'm honest. I'd done refurbs on my
Still don't.
houses. And I know, it's crazy. I was so ignorant. But I knew that I needed to start somewhere. I needed to work with someone who was an expert, and that was what his expertise was in. He actually said to me, "You shouldn't start in stone and tile because it's too easy." Turns out in the finished trades, I'm not sure, Jesse, how familiar you are with the finished trades, but one of the riskiest is stone because stone slabs are so expensive.
Yeah.
One of the most difficult is, ironically, not. I know nothing about the actual installation of it, but I'm sure that it's very challenging and tough and requires expertise. The toughness I'm talking about is getting the number right, like actually making money on the
Oh,
proposal.
yeah.
Getting that right is hard because you've got waste factors which impact you. You know, the margins are always tight. And
Yep.
if you get the waste factors wrong, then you don't make money. So you do all this
Yep.
work. It feels like you're making money, but at the end, you're paying your clients to install their stuff for them.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
So my big idea was, how do I get to a place where I can do this for Eunice? So I thought, let's start with, I don't have a machine that can do the takeoffs yet, but I'll build out an estimation team. They'll do the takeoffs. I'll build out a pricing engine so that I can material price for the scope of works that I'm focused on. And my team will receive the bid invitation and they'll turn it into a fully priced bid. And I'll give that to my customer, and my customer will change the number, and then they'll make it theirs and they'll submit. Then I'll tell them, guys, please don't bid with this number because this is just your starting point.
Right.
Started to bring on customers, and then one of my customers called me up and said, Shane, we just lost $25,000. They paid me $300 for the piece of work that we did. We just lost $25,000 on this project because of your price. And I said, huh? What? You submitted your proposal using our price? Are you guys insane?
Did they really just do that?
I promise you they did that, Jesse. And it was at that point that I realized, oh my God, the amount of risk that I am exposing myself to, because you can literally have you can have like a reception desk, like a circular stone reception desk, that because it's circular will be like 10 times the cost of just the square footage. So I realized, oh my God, because I didn't know enough, I was literally giving people a number. I was telling them, guys, please check everything. And they were saying, yes, we're going to check everything, Shane. But you know how it gets. You get busy. 90% of the time, my number's good. They're checking it and it's good. Actually, 98% of the time, it's good. 2% of the time, it's going to put you out of business. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yes. Yes.
And the second I realized that, I literally changed the direction of the business because I didn't want to put myself at that level of risk, and
Right.
I didn't want to put my customers at that level of risk. So
Yeah.
it was pretty scary. I feel like we dodged a bullet on spotting that relatively early. When I say early, 2 years into the journey was when I spotted. But that was a very scary lesson for me.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, you're hanging out with Eunice, drinking whiskey, and you say, you know what? I need to make this so we could be drinking whiskey at the bar, not the office.
Right.
You came up with this idea
Yep.
and you put it into play. You hired a team and you started producing a product and selling the product. And then some bugs started popping out in terms of the way the end user was using it, even though you advised them not to do that. Because you're 100% right. Like, you get an invite, an RFP, and you get like due today by 3 p.m.
Right.
It's like, what do you mean? Like, come on, man. I need time to like do a solid bid or estimate takeoff and check all the things. Now, here's see if I can make the connection. You're good. You've developed the skill of listening and really seeking to understand the root of the problem for the client or the people that you're serving. You also have a business, you want to manage risk, not just for yourself, but also for the end user.
Mm.
How do you draw the line? Because I'm sure now, like what you were describing was probably way less automation or AI than there is today in Jenga. Where do you draw the line with regard to feature requests from end users? How do you manage that? If they want new features, was that something that's like you just expect that at the beginning when you're like in development? What does that look like in terms of feature requests and discerning whether it should be done, or if I don't do it, I might lose the contract, that sort of stuff? Is that a challenge you have to wrestle with?
100%. It's very hard, Jesse, because people always want stuff, especially if they're not paying for it, if you know what I mean. It literally costs you nothing to ask a software vendor to add a feature. So it's a challenge, but I think that well, I'll tell you how we manage it. So
Good.
I told you that we delivered a piece of a service, if you will. I still want to do that. I still want Eunice to sit at the bar and get his fully priced bid and decide it's good and send it. I still want that, but I don't want him to lose money.
Yeah.
It's taken a couple more years to understand a little more about construction and about what the risks are and how to mitigate those risks. And part of how we're solving it is some things you can fully automate and some things you can't. So
Okay.
so coming back to your question about how do I manage requirements, my North Star is achieving, I'll tell you what we want. Here's what I want from my customers. Let me describe a customer that has seen success with Jenga. This
Yes.
customer has doubled their revenue in 3 years, and they've tripled their profits. So that to me is what success looks like.
Yes.
So that's my North Star. My North Star is the functionality that we're going to put in the system. No arguments. I'm going to prioritize it. Anything you tell me you want that aligns with that goal, I'm going to put in. I'm not even going to argue with you. I'm going to figure out how to do it, and I'm going to do it. If I have to raise more money to do that, I'll do it. If I have to knock off a piece of functionality that's less useful than that and deliver that later, I'll do it. So if it aligns strongly with the North Star, it's a no-brainer. If I discover something new, then that's easy. What's a little harder is functionality that sort of helps but doesn't really. And the way we deal with that is we try to figure out if is there some peripheral benefit to people apart from you? And if there is, then we'll figure out, okay, we'll still do it, but we'll do it when, I'm sure you're familiar with the concept of rocks have you heard of EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System?
Oh, yes. Yep.
So a concept that I think works really well when you have limited resource, and you always have limited resource, is
Right.
you differentiate between a rock, which is a big thing that requires an investment by your team, from a stone, which is a smaller thing that requires less, from sand. And
Yeah.
the idea is you can, the, the sand represents all of the small little things that you do, but at the end, you haven't really moved the needle forward. So we're very particular about moving the needle forwards with the strategic things, which are the rocks, and then
Yeah.
the stones are the smaller, easier to deliver things, and the sand is just fills in the gap. You know what I mean? You can
Yep.
put some rocks in, you can put some stones in, and you can throw in some sand. But if it's all sand, there's no space for anything else. So that's how we
Yes.
think about it. And then a software company, in the same way as a construction company, is a services company delivering service. So sometimes you just have to bite the bullet. If you've got a big company that wants something and feels like it's urgent and they're a strategic account,
Yeah.
we'll just do it. But the short answer, Jesse, it's hard. It's very
Yeah.
hard.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. And I love the big rock, stones, and sand. My reason I'm familiar with them, I remember seeing a video, I think it was Stephen Covey, who showed, right? He's trying
Right.
to fill a jar. He's like, if you, everybody spends all their time with the sand, if you take care of the sand first, you can't fit the big rocks and the stones.
That's right.
If you take care of the big rocks first, then the stones, then the sand, you can take care of all of it. But so it's a matter of,
Absolutely.
right? And I'm like, man, that was magic. Oh, but he's not showing me how to fill a jar. He's teaching me how to think. Got it.
Covey's incredible. He's got a couple of really great, like begin with the end in mind.
Yep.
It sounds like such a simple concept, but so powerful.
Yes, totally, totally. And so on the feature request, this was about 5 to 7 years ago when I had like a real job. There was a lot, all of a sudden, it was kind of when there started being a big focus of software in construction, right? Coming into, I mean, now it's like anything, there's all kinds of options or ideas coming into the space. Back then, there wasn't a whole lot, but they started. And what I picked, I wasn't aware. It took me a few conversations to figure out, because I was always in these conversations. I don't know why. Anyways, and I remember sitting and I'm like talking to these this one group, and I'm like, okay, does it do this? And they would say it can.
Right.
And I thought they were being just formal in their answer, like, yes, it can. What I discovered is they're saying they will make it do it. Like it wasn't the current functionality. And so what happened was, okay, well, and we got a test run because we were going to be contributing to the whatever. And then we got it and it didn't do anything that we wanted it to do. And they're like, no, we said it can, meaning we can program it to do that. And I'm like, that's not what I was asking. Like, can it do it now, man? And so I kind of learned, like, okay, I got to talk to these guys differently. And then I would see several people, like they had a really great idea that was like one singular vertical, right?
Right. Super deep.
Powerful, like just great. And then they started Frankensteining, putting all kinds of other features because people wanted them. And you already nailed it. One person wanted it. Nobody else cared about that feature. And then the other feature was one person that won. So I credit it to a matter of discipline, or more clearly, like you said, they didn't have a true north. And so they were just saying yes, which they ended up underperforming because they couldn't say no to anything. And so I've never been on that side, like in that type of business, but I would imagine it'd be difficult to say like, no, like we're not going to do that.
It's very hard, but I do want to say something about construction. When I first started in construction, I observed something similar to what you just said, which is, why is it that the software goes so deep and solves this one little problem and does
Yes.
nothing around that problem. And I really didn't have an answer to it, but I now understand why. The why is because technology needs of construction are deep, very deep. And if you're not in it, you don't realize. And
Right.
the funny part is construction companies, to a certain extent, have been building their own systems for many years. And they'll put it together with all of the tools that are at their disposal. So a couple of Excel spreadsheets, maybe a
Yep.
couple of databases. The information management problem is real, and you've solved it by putting together the capabilities that are at your disposal. And sometimes it's taken years, and you built a system that works. You're
Yeah.
making money, your company's making money, and then a software guy will come along and they'll look at the solution that you've put together and they'll turn up their nose at it and they'll go,
Yes.
I can solve this problem much easier, mostly because they don't understand the complexity of the problem. So
Yes.
they'll start working on a solution and they'll realize, oh my God, this is way harder than I thought. And what ends up happening, and it's hard because I've seen so many talks where people say that construction companies or people in construction are anti-tech, and that is not my belief at all. I think
Right.
they're very pro-tech. I think that tech has never been good enough in the past to actually service the needs of construction, both in the information technology side, just moving bits around, and also
Yep.
the physical side, like the tooling that
Yep.
allows you to actually do the build quicker. So I think that's what's happened in the past. So what will happen to a tech company is they'll start working on a problem and they'll realize, wow, we've got to go really deep to solve this problem. And it costs a lot of money to build software, like a
Yeah.
crazy amount of money to build. People don't realize because we have so many very cool free platforms that we get to use. And those companies that are giving it to us have spent billions on those platforms.
Yes.
We don't realize because we just use it and it's fantastic.
Right.
We're the product.
Right.
So they end up getting stuck because they've invested all of the money that they had to build their product on the one problem. Like takeoff softwares, for instance, they're great at being a takeoff product, but they're not great at building a proposal. They're not great at really anything apart from being a takeoff software.
Doing the takeoffs.
Not because the technologists that built it aren't great technologists, just because that problem itself is a hard problem to solve. And making it better really uses up all of your spend that you've allocated to technology. So that is I've never seen it in another sector. Like,
Really?
I promise you, I haven't seen it in government finance. I haven't seen it in investment banking. I mean, I haven't worked in I haven't worked in rocket science. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
but you've been in some pretty darn serious businesses. So yeah.
thank you. But the construction sector has a very deep need for technology. And
Yeah.
that's what I find so exciting about having moaned about Eunice pulling me into construction technology all those years ago. He's my best friend, and sometimes I hate him and sometimes I love him because he's given me the opportunity to work in this vibrant, incredible industry.
Yeah.
And what's super exciting about it is the fact that finally technology is catching up.
To be able to provide that meaningful service.
100%, to be able to actually do something that really makes a big difference. Like I mentioned, our success for a platform to position someone in a place where in 3 years they can triple their profit is pretty huge. And,
Yeah.
and it's not because I'm an Einstein. It's just that I've met the right people, and with their help, we've been able to build a platform that's really supported the needs that they have. But the
Yeah.
technology is just getting very exciting. Like its capabilities are catching
Yeah.
up to the needs of construction. So
Yeah.
it's an exciting time.
Yeah. Well, you know, so one thing that I really appreciate about you, Shane, and Jenga is that it is subcontractor or trade focused.
100%.
And it's like my belief, because here's what really irritates the hell out of me of all the different things that are out there. They say we're doing this thing, this new app or whatever, it doesn't matter. This digital solution is going to make the workers' day better. It's not true. 2026 is right around the corner, and I want to help you make this year the year you finally put yourself first. How? With the Self First Framework. There's a full half-day webinar that's going to give you the tools and the tactics to plan effectively, to finally make room for yourself in your schedule, and to execute daily so that you can dominate the day. I know 4 hours is a big commitment, so maybe you want a little more intel before you like go all in. And that's perfect because I got a sweet little webinar that you're invited to. There's a link down there in the show notes. Pick the date that works best for you. Sign up for the webinar and let's do the damn thing. Nobody has gotten to that point yet. That's not bad. But what's underlying that is what the providers think that their system, whatever it is they're producing or offering, can serve a general contractor and a subcontractor and an architect and an engineer. And I don't believe that to be true because they are very different worlds. And maybe it's just my gray hairs and hard-headed thinking, I believe there needs to be a solution for subcontractors and a solution for general contractors, and they're separate. They can be complementary, but they are not the same. And so I'm going to cry a little bit more. What I see is most of the stuff that is created is very GC centric. Why? Because they got bigger dollars,
Right.
right? Like they got bigger dollars, they got more access, they got more influence, and I get all of that, right? Branding and marketing and reach and all of saturating the market. Like I get it. But what ends up happening, and I think it's a good thing, depending on where you are in the business, what ends up happening is the subcontractors are underserved. And underserved, I think, is putting it lightly. They're straight up neglected. So it's like a blue ocean.
I
It's
agree.
like doing something for subcontractors, serving subcontractors in some form is wide open for people like you who give a damn and are willing to put in the time to come and make something not just impactful, but also a viable business. What do you think about that?
You hit the nail on the head. So every single software company that I'm aware of right now, if you think about the Procores of the world, you think about the Autodesks of the world, they started with the GC and then they try to retrofit the subcontractors world into their software.
Yep.
And when I talk about the complexity of construction companies, I'm literally talking about the complexity of being a subcontractor. Because if you're a subcontractor, one, you've got to manage cash. Two, you've got to manage your bidding. Three, you've got to manage people. Four, there are parts of you're actually doing the construction, and there are other teams that are in your way that sometimes ruin your work, that don't care about your timeline or your schedule, or they care about their own stuff. When I say construction is complex, I should have qualified better. Being a subcontractor is probably one of the hardest businesses ever. And what's interesting about that I'm aware of, that I've ever seen, what's interesting about it is to start up a subcontracting business is not hard. It has its challenges. You're going to get gray hairs and have sleepless nights. Absolutely. Yes. But if you're a master plumber, I think you're a master plumber. You start up a plumbing business and you would probably get to 1 million, maybe 5 million within, let's say, 5 years. That would be it would be hard work and it would be 24/7, but you could do it quite easily. But once you get there, it's like it starts out and it seems like I'm going to start this up, and you start making money straight away and you buy the Bentley and you buy the big house and everything's great. You've got lots of money. Your business is growing. But level 2 opens up when you're going from 1 million to say 2.5. And then you realize, wow, okay, I am growing year on year. I'm doubling my revenues, but I'm running low on cash. Like I have to sell the Bentley. I've got to move into a smaller house. My kids can't go to private school anymore. But
Right, right.
my company's growing. And then so what's my point? My point is it seems like it's a sector that has a low barrier to entry, which is great when you're starting, but it sucks when you're a mature business because you've got all of these people starting up who don't know how to bid, who are undercutting you and losing money on. So that part's hard. And then as you start to grow and as you start to become an enterprise, it opens up the next level of complexity. Like it doesn't get easier, it just gets harder.
Yes.
You get to 2.5, you get to 5, you get to 10, and you feel like, wow, even though the business is getting bigger, even though my revenue is huge, the bank manager comes out to see me when I go to the bank, I always feel like I've got no money. I always feel like I'm on the verge of bankruptcy.
Yep.
So that's something I've not seen in any other sector. And the other thing about who's got the money, I think that part of the reason why subcontracting, and I haven't done any beyond speaking to people, some very knowledgeable people. I didn't discover this myself. I've spoken to some great, very smart people who've been thinking about this for a long time. The undercutting hurts the bottom line of the bid process. The fact that there have been savings, there have been productivity boosts in construction, but it doesn't get passed on to the sub because there's always someone who wants to bid the job a little lower than you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I know that I'm taking a very circuitous route to arriving at why subs. So because it's such a hard business, it means that it's hard to sell software to subcontractors. It's very hard because it produces, if you're still around after 10 years, if you haven't gone bankrupt, it's because you've been very careful. Like you've been very careful about disrupting your process. You've been very careful about where you spend your money. And it's very difficult to sell you software because in your mind, you've got a solution. Yes, it's made out of bubblegum and sellotape and
It works.
it works. And you've got a 65-year-old woman who's on the verge of retiring, who's holding it all together for you, but it's working. And it's my $15 million business is working.
Yes.
So
Yes.
from that perspective, the subcontractor is a tough customer to have. And most software vendors start with the GC and then cobble on functionality for the sub. But the way I think about it is what you said. And honestly, Jesse, I told you, when I started this journey, I didn't even know what a subcontractor was. But the more I learned about the business and the complexity of the business, and the more people that I met who were subcontractors, the more excited and the more I really want to change. Like I want to make being a subcontractor great. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think technology is getting to a place where it can be great because I'll tell you my vision. I mentioned that I want Eunice to sit in the bar and bid projects. But my other vision is in the subcontracting space, it's super interesting that you have you'll hear people say it's very fragmented. Construction is fragmented. I don't know if you've heard those words before.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And if you look at, there are a number of very big general contractors, but there are very few big subcontractors.
Yep.
And my interpretation of that is it's a function of the complexity of running a subcontracting business. So what happens is you started at a mill, then you got to 5, then you got to 10, then you got to 15, then you got to 25, then you got to 45, and then 3 of your estimators made a mistake, and one of your installation teams made a mistake, and suddenly you're bankrupt. Not because you don't have $30 million worth of future projects, but because you're out of cash.
Yeah.
You're a $40 million business that can run out of cash. That's what happens. So what I would like to do, like my vision for Jenga, where I would like to get to with Jenga is One, I want to take the risk out of bidding, because
Ooh,
if you think about it, every proposal that you submit, especially so if you're a residential subcontractor, it's less risky because your relationship is single serving generally. Like you do work for one GC and then, but if you're a commercial GC, sorry, commercial sub, that relationship is worth millions and millions over a 5 to 10 year period or longer if you're good. It
yeah.
means that if you make a mistake, you got to eat it. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Which means that that you're servicing their bid request, but you're putting yourself at risk every time you do. Because if you make a mistake, you eat that mistake. And if you
Yeah.
make let's say a $30,000 mistake, that's bottom line money. That's not top
Yes.
line money. If you make it, let's say, a 20% margin, okay. Normally it's like 5 to 10%. So if you make a
Right.
5% margin, think about the size of the bid to get to $30,000 to spend. That's
Yeah.
the risk that you take every single time you sit. So take the risk out of proposals. How? With a platform that maximizes the value you get out of your people, and
Mm,
AI-based tooling that gets everything out of the very inefficient method of sharing the ask, which is the architectural plans.
yeah.
So simplify that part. Okay, that's part one. Part two is, imagine if I can, because we've made and this might sound a little scary for some, what I see happening is the super sub starting to emerge. And what do I mean by a super sub? We have some of them already. It's essentially a subcontracting company that is bidding on more than one scope in a project. That
Oh,
is
yeah.
the path to a big construction company,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you can get access to, if you think about, if you're a mature subcontractor, you're already one of the top 5 in your area, let's say. Like you're bidding all the big projects, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but you're already good at your job. You're already an expert, basically. The only way to make more money is to start to get access to more of the money in the project. And the only way to do that is to bid more scopes. So
Yep.
I think that what we'll see is the super sub, and I think we'll see more and more installation companies that are subs to these super subs doing the actual installation work. And I think we're going to start to see some robotics having an impact on the installers, which is very exciting to me, but just not an area that I'm focused on right now. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I gave you a very long answer to.
Love it because I agree. I mean, my background, I worked with TD Industries and they're mechanical contractors. So we did mechanical, was sheet metal, plumbing, and hydronic systems, right? Piping.
Yep.
So we did all of that for a little, like a blink of an eye. We started doing electrical also here in San Antonio anyway. So we were all MEP. The problem was we had acquired the workforce of, this was during when, remember, I don't know if you're, when Enron blew up.
Yeah.
So when that happened, there was some big giant electrical conglomerate that was part of that and it dissolved. So all of those people were available in the market. And we said as an organization, let's start an electrical arm.
Wow.
And we did. But all of those, that workforce that we acquired came in totally different culture, right?
Right.
We were a servant leadership kind of employee owned company. They were screw everybody, we're going to make as much as we can
Right.
type of
Enron
culture.
mentality, basically.
Yes. And so we're all on the same. And I was fortunate enough to be one of those early projects where mechanical, electrical, it was all us. And I was like fighting with my coworker,
Wow.
really fighting over dumb stuff that was going to cost me a lot of money, which was going to cost the company money. It was better for their little budget, their electrical. Anyways, it was a disaster. That lasted about 2 years and then we stopped it. But to your point, I mean, there are some like Southland Industries, there's a lot of organizations that are, and I'm starting to see this trend too. General contractors are starting to go back to having self-perform operations, meaning they're having some of the subcontract work that they used to subcontract out. They're starting to take it in as part of their scope and operate it under their umbrella. All that to say, like, I agree 100%. And then the idea of like robotics coming into the industry, it's happening right now. I mean, well, I got introduced to the Trimble, which it's not necessarily a robot, but it was like a step, which is, what do you call that? GPS locating. So we could do layouts. We could put all our piping and all of our stuff, which used to, and I did the math and I timed it. I sat there with my timer. A scope that would take us 6 days with 9 guys, we were able to do in 4 days with 3 guys.
Amazing.
And the accuracy, it's embarrassing how much more accurate it was with the Trimble. So that was not necessarily a robot, but I've been seeing these robots that do layout. They just go around
Yes,
and
that's
lay out
the robots is one example. Yeah.
Cool. I wish I had one of those, because you know what I had to do, Shane? I had to get me a 6-inch welded flange, which weighs about 15 pounds, tie a string, my chalk line to it, put it at the end of the corridor, walk all the way down, pop my line, go back and get my welding flange. Like, that's how I automated the work. And now they got these super cool, like, man, you cheaters. But I think it's just around the corner. It's happening slowly. Now, I got to ask you this question because I'm curious. And you already touched on it, right? You're talking about like a lot of the subcontractors are apprehensive. I'll say that word about bringing something in that is foreign to their current method, even though their method is bubble gum and duct tape, right? It works.
Right.
So what's the most common objection you get around Jenga and adoption, or maybe even consideration to use it and look at the thing?
I'll tell you what makes it tough. What makes it tough is, at this point in time, the person that gets the most value out of Jenga is the salesperson. If you think about you as a salesperson, my typical, even the age demographic is just so interesting in construction too. You got this group of old guard that are, honestly, I was going to say 60, but let's say 65 onwards, who are amazing at their job, like wonderful, super talented, expert in their field. Then there's like this gap, there's no one. And then the next age is like 35. It's so interesting. So you have these people who have been very good at their job using the systems that they have. And part of their thinking is, I like the way I do things. I'm making money. Why should I change? And part of it is, I'm only going to be doing this for another 2.5 to 5 years. Why should I learn something new? So what that means is, in any industry, selling to salespeople is hard, because a salesperson thinks, if I'm not selling, I'm not making money. I'm not gonna. I think it was George Washington, and they said, if you're going to chop down 10 trees, what do? And one guy said, start chopping as quickly as possible. And Washington said, I'm going to sharpen my axe. It's quite rare takes a lot for a salesperson to say, I'm going to sharpen my axe. They'll generally go, let me start chopping, baby. So that makes it a little tough. But basically it means that we have to deliver more value. So product, it has to be so obvious that it's better. So, and that's part of why we had to spend so much time making it better, because we have to get to this point where I can go into a big company and I can look at how they're doing things, and I can literally say, okay, right now it takes you 4.5 hours to get this bit out the door. With my software, it's going to take you half an hour. What are you going to do with that other 4 hours? Like, what are you going to do? You're going to talk to customers. You're going to sell more. So that's basically, and please don't think that I'm saying that it's easy, because it's tough. It's tough to sell. And the product, despite the fact that it's so good and it does so much, we sell to the entire team. So we're literally saying, okay, you have a team of 5 estimators and 15 salespeople. They're all going to have to change. And when they change, you're going to have 15 salespeople, but they're going to have the selling capacity of 25. Do you know what I mean? You're going to own your market. So that's basically that's how we think about it. It's basically a deliver maximum value, deliver more value. And then the objection is learning. I don't want to take the time to learn. So we've got a fantastic team of people that literally hold your hand,
Oh, okay.
go from 0 to 100 in a couple of hours. That's
That's
essentially how we've done it.
I love that answer because you know how many times that you probably could tell when we got some new thing that, again, this is a long time ago. They're like, "Oh, Jesse will do it." That was because I'd like trying new,
Right.
you know, if it improved production, I was open to it,
Mm.
or if it helped me analyze, make decisions that would impact production, I was open to it. And so I ended up being the in-house SME on whatever stupid new thing they got. And I'm like, okay, like, how do we use the thing? Oh, like, well, we sent you the PowerPoint.
Right.
I'm like, oh, and that was the norm. Now, this was 10, 15 years ago, but I was like, man, this sucks. Like, they were selling software the way I dated. Like, it was great on the first one. And after that, forget about it.
So, Jesse, we started like that. Honestly, my idea was let's make the software as easy as possible to use so that it's easy. The problem is when the problem you're solving is complex, like the different ways you can present doing a piece of construction. It's like
Yes.
limitless. There's a limitless
Yes.
number and the flow of information is very complex. So even with a focus on making it simple, it's still not simple. So
Right.
it took me a while to internalize it. I've got to help my customers be successful on my platform, and that's where we are right now.
That's amazing. Good for you. Good for you. Folks, L&M family, if you didn't hear it, Mr. Shane said, we just need to deliver more value. We have to make it like undeniably valuable for the user, which I think is powerful. I mean, in terms of you being the leader of the organization, you've shared your vision with us, but being I don't know what I would classify myself, a wannabe entrepreneur, pretender, trying to learn how to run a business. It's easy for me to blame the client or blame the customer. But if I just delivered more value, there would be no problem. And I think that's true for all of us in any situation. But I'm going to keep it in the business vein. Like, if you're like, deliver more value and you win. You got to be committed to that. And it's not easy. It's a long road. Oh, my goodness. Okay, Mr. Shane, are you ready for the Grand Slam closing question?
I think so. Now I'm really worried.
No, it's a good, but you shouldn't have anything to worry about. I think the path that you've traveled in terms of your career, coming up in finance, software engineering, you have an appreciation and a skill set of listening to people and designing things to solve problems for human beings, which comes across amazingly. Because of all of that, I suspect your answer to this question is going to be phenomenal. So here it is. What is the promise you are intended to be?
What is the promise I'm intending to, my promise to my customers or me personally?
You to the universe.
I promise that the business problems that I focus on will have a material impact on the people that are paying me for my services. I promise that I will be the best possible husband that I can be to my wife and the best possible father that I can be to my children, so that my wife's life is better because of me, and my children are the types of people that have a very positive impact on the world.
Mic drop. Wow. No, not surprised, but I am thoroughly, I got chills. That was serious, serious. So, you know,
It's from the heart.
yeah, that's it. It was from the heart. So I appreciate it. Did you have fun?
I loved it, Jesse. I knew we were going to have a great conversation, and you exceeded my expectations. This was fantastic, and I feel like we need to chat more, my friend.
I do too. I do too. Thank you for sticking it out all the way to the end. I know you got a whole lot of stuff going on. And in appreciation for the gift of time that you have given this episode, I want to offer you a free PDF of my book, Becoming the Promise You're Intended to Be. The link for that bad boy is down in the show notes. Hit it. You don't even have to give me your email address. There's a link in there. You just click that button and you can download the PDF. And if you share it with somebody that you know who might feel stuck or be caught up in self-destructive behaviors, that would be the ultimate. You sharing that increases the likelihood that it's going to help one more person. And if it does help one more person, then you're contributing to me becoming the promise I am intended to be. Be kind to yourself, be cool, and we'll talk at you next time.